Hello, band world, and welcome to the next episode of what we have decided to call Things Band Directors Wish They Had Time to Teach. Now, in the first episode, I mentioned I didn't have much beyond a working title. I was thinking of things I wish band directors knew, but former classmate and good friend of mine, John Richardson, I'll give you some kudos there, John. He contacted me, thought this was a great idea, a great concept, very useful, but that some band directors actually do know these things, and some even know how to teach them, obviously, since I referenced last week a lesson from one of my former band directors, and that though it was not my intention, the original title might come across as insulting to some, and of course he was 100% correct. So that's why we're going with this new title, Things Band Directors Wish They Had Time to Teach. I've decided to keep it within roughly a 10-minute or slightly below format. I want it to be long enough that it's useful information, that we're not rushing through trying to convey a concept, but not so long that you're just not going to sit down and watch it. We're all strapped for time, and like I said, the title is Things that band directors wish they had time to teach. So if you have to watch, a 15, 20, 30-minute episode, you don't have that kind of time. I understand that. Let's see. A few more things we've solidified. We're going to have many guest co-hosts in the future. My first co-host will be Russell Schartzer on the next episode. And, I'll let Russell on that episode talk about the topic he's chosen and not speak for him. Russ and I go back quite a ways. We were classmates 20-some years ago. We are colleagues now in the Derby City Chamber Brass, which, when I reformed the group based on the Derby City Brass Quintet that I ran 20 years ago, I knew at times I'd want to expand beyond a quintet and at times below a quintet, so I thought chamber brass was more descriptive. But the core membership actually is a quintet, and Russ is our tubist. He is also very well known in Kentucky and Indiana as a band clinician, and in fact he has just been recently appointed performing artist and educational clinician for Jupiter Instruments. And of course, as I stated previously, I'm a performing trumpet artist and educational clinician for Bach Trumpets division of Conselmer Corporation. So on this latest episode, what I would like to I'm sorry, I apologize. My goal is to publish these every Thursday, and life and other things got in the way, and it's Thursday evening right now, and I'm sitting in my car filming this episode so that I can get it in, at my self-imposed deadline. So if you hear kind of a whoosh sound in the background, it's the air conditioner in my car because, well, it's really hot here. This week's topic, and I will be visiting this topic again in more depth in future episodes, I'm sure, but it's air usage. Now, a lot of teachers mean well, but they haven't perhaps had occasion to sit down and really think through the concept of air usage. We've all had teachers say, more air, more air. Okay, I'm trying to use more air. It's not working. I'm going to go a little more in depth than that. The concept I like to use is the opposite wall. Now, if you're on the marching field, obviously, it's horns to the box. That's great on the marching field, but if you're playing like that in the band room, everyone's going to be deaf, and it's probably not going to be a very good sound. So the reason I like the opposite wall is, it's adjustable. If you're in a practice room, it's not that far. If you're in the band room, it's a little farther. On the marching field or the auditorium, obviously much farther. But basically, you're picking out a spot on the back wall of whatever room you're in, or the top row of bleachers or the grandstand of a football field for marching band, and you are projecting to that point. And not only does that make sure that you are heard all the way far back as your last audience member, but it also promotes good air usage. I'll call it that for now. Simply, when teachers are saying more air, what they usually mean is faster air. Now, especially, I spent many years as a lead trumpet player, Broadway type shows, jazz bands, you name it. In fact, for a while, I started to become typecast as only a high note player, which is kind of ironic because the national and international competitions I've won or been a finalist of, was always classical or orchestral trumpet, and I'd played in symphony orchestras, a few different professional symphony orchestras. So, but again, that was, I guess, the most public personification of my career, and so people assumed that was my specialty or the only thing I did. I decided that was a skill I wanted to acquire when I was about a senior in high school. Of course, I grew up listening to Maynard Ferguson and Doc Severinsen, Al Hurt, which goes back even a little farther. A lot of famous high note players of their respective era. My teacher, though, was primarily a classical orchestral trumpet player, so I didn't really have much of a model as far as that was concerned until I went to college. I did watch, though, when I was in junior high and even high school, grew up in Lexington, Kentucky, and watched the incredible string of high note trumpet players that came through the trumpet studio at the University of Kentucky under Vince DiMartino. And one in particular, actually I ended up taking a few lessons from him when he was an undergraduate, and I think I was about 12 years old. I mean, it was literally, okay kid, here's first valve, second valve, third valve. Unfortunately, I wasn't at a level at that time to really take advantage of him. But I watched Rob Parton and how he used his air, and he didn't really seem to be using a lot of air, but what was incredible was how fast it was. I mean, it was like an air compressor or a jet turbine. It was just and in fact, when he would even blow the water out of his horn, it would even whistle sometimes because he was still using that lead trumpet air. And obviously, in that type of situation, you're going to use that incredibly fast, incredibly compressed air, but it's not always appropriate for other situations, like lead in an orchestra, principal trumpet of an orchestra or concert band. But you still need to be thinking fast air. Now, people try to get a warm sound, so all too often, the air will be so slow that it won't hardly even speak, more like fogging a mirror. And of course, this gets a little more into depth. Some teachers will be proponents, of opening the throat and other methods, and they're all very effective, very good. But the air still has to be fast to get the horn to speak. I mean, how many times have you heard trumpet player coming in on an exposed passage, and they don't want it to seem too loud, so they'll just not only have I heard that a bunch of times, I've done that a few times. Excuse me. Basically, when you're for a more classical or symphonic situation, I don't want to use legit because I hate that word because it makes the other seem like it's not legit, which is anything but the case. When you are using that type of air in a symphonic or orchestral environment, yes, you might be opening the throat some, but you still need to make the attack quick. And there are a few different analogies I use. I firmly believe that any good teacher should be able to say the same thing 3-4 different ways, because we all learn different styles. You can think of your air as like throwing a dart, at a dartboard, taking a cafeteria straw and shooting someone with a spitball. Of course, I never did that when I was a kid. Spitting a watermelon seed, you eat watermelon. In fact, I think it was in Miles Davis's autobiography that he used to call it spitting rice. Like if you had a dry piece of rice and you want to get rid of it, that type of attack, but again, you're projecting it to the back wall. So again, we're running up on our 10 minutes now. I will be addressing this again in a future episode, probably several, but I just wanted to give you an overview of my concept, and actually the concept of a lot of other professional players share, of air usage, and not only getting a good sound, but getting those initial attacks to speak. So thanks again. I'm Steve Bottom, and I'll be back with another episode next week.